Good morning guys. So it is currently Father's Day. I thought I would give you a bit of an update over the last few days in case my phone footage hasn't turned out well. So pretty much on Wednesday I woke up and I took a pregnancy test. I've been taking them regularly and it came up negative. So I was like, okay, threw it in the bin. Anyway, for some reason, I went back into the bathroom and in the corner of my eye, I saw a faint line. And it was one of the eBay ones because I bulk buy them. And I thought, oh, that's the first time that a faint line has ever happened. Last time that happened, it was Teddy. Went straight to the pharmacy and I took another one. And this is what that one said. I don't know if you'll see it. And this one said, yes. And oh my god, I'm pregnant. So the next day, Thursday morning, I went to the doctors and I told Fletcher that I was taking Teddy for his immunizations, which I was. And I got a blood test and I'll get those results on Tuesday. But she said, like, if I've taken 2 tests and they're both positive, there's like almost no way I can't be about 3.5 weeks along. But I've got everything. I've got my referral for an ultrasound in around 3 weeks as well. But we're gonna have another baby. Teddy's just shuffling chairs around. I just wanted to say also how beyond grateful I am that we are able to have another baby, because we have been trying for a while and we did have a miscarriage. So I just feel really blessed that we're able to add to our family. You know, we hear a lot of people say, oh, we got it on the first go, you know, we tried on the first go, and that just wasn't the case for us. We didn't tell anyone we were trying. I just really wanted to say that I'm beyond grateful to be bringing another Bubba into the family. Teddy is just perfect and we just love him to bits, and we would just love to give him a sibling. So I'm so happy that we are lucky enough to get pregnant again, and I'm so excited to bring you guys along on this journey this time. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. This video is Charlie's birth story. I have to apologize with how long it has taken me to be able to sit down and talk to you without my emotions running too high. It's taken 9.5 months for me to be able to get my words out properly and just sort of look back and not feel as much anger and frustration as I have been feeling. What happened with Charlie's birth was beyond traumatizing. I can't even put into words how frustrating the situation was. I definitely have come to terms with everything that's happened, but obviously I can never forget how badly I was treated. So I've got on my phone a list of dates and everything, and I'll start right from the start. But I guess I just wanted to say thank you for being so patient. Ever since I was at Pindara, where I had Charlie, and I did the series of Instagram stories just at the rawest moment. I just had Charlie, I was bawling my eyes out, and I got on stories for whatever reason and just vented to you. I received so much love, but I've also received so many messages of people just wanting to know the ins and outs of what exactly happened, why I left Gold Coast University Hospital, and what it was that I had that made my situation so difficult. So I guess I'll start from the start and talk to you guys about how I found out I had polyhydramnios, which was a condition I had that made me bigger than I was supposed to be. And I guess pretty much Charlie was measuring at 42 weeks when I was only 35 weeks pregnant, I'm pretty sure. And just walk you through what exactly happened, when alarm bells started going off, and when it was that I started feeling sick, all the way through to what happened at the university hospital, why I had to transfer to Pindara, and just the difference between how I was being looked after. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this, and again, I'm so sorry that this has taken me so long, but for one reason or another, I just really wanted to enjoy Charlie. He was honestly so close to not making it here that I've just cherished every single second I've had with him, because I've come to terms with it and we honestly had the best possible outcome. So guys, follow along my Instagram. You will see that the photos I posted from my pregnancy with Teddy to the photos of my pregnancy with Charlie, I looked a lot bigger, which up until about 34, 35 weeks, I thought was just normal. You know, second pregnancy, you're bigger. It got to my routine checkup at the Gold Coast University Hospital, and they take me in, they lay me on a bed, they get like a measuring tape out and they do my belly, they also take my blood pressure and everything. So they did like a uni sort of person just doing that, and when she took the measurement, it was coming up that I was measuring at about, she picked up 40 weeks pregnant, 40 to 41 weeks pregnant, when I was only, I think, maybe 35 and 3 days pregnant. So what she did was she called and got her, like the next person up, her manager I guess, or the head of the department, to come in, and she measured my belly, and she actually said, you are measuring at about 42 to 43 weeks pregnant, which would be almost overcooked. So this was a bit of an alarm bell. I had said to them that I thought I was a lot bigger this time around, but they said it's normal, a little bit of excess fluid, and bub could also be big as well. So they wanted me to get a retesting of the glucose test, which I'd already done at about the normal time you get glucose testing. I think that's about 20 weeks, or like 16 to 20 weeks pregnant, and that was all fine. But because I'm measuring a lot bigger, the chance of, you know, getting a sort of bad result for your glucose test, I guess, was increasing. So I scheduled that, I think, for the 11th of April. So this was the 5th of April, and then the glucose test was scheduled for the 11th of April, and Charlie wasn't supposed to be due until May. So anyway, I left there feeling, I guess, a little overwhelmed and a little worried, but I knew that they wouldn't have sent me away if anything was sort of wrong. What I did was I booked my appointments, as I do, before you give birth and such. It would be a high chance of me being able to get induced earlier, because it wasn't going to be all that safe for him to be in there till like middle of May. That in mind, I booked my hair in at exactly 36 weeks pregnant, and that was the 10th of April. So on the 10th of April, I went to my hair appointment, and this is where it all started. No, the night of my hair appointment, or the day of, I woke up and I felt just really strange, having sort of like little baby contractions, but I just didn't really think too much of it, because they were about 20 minutes apart, 25 minutes apart, and some of them even like a couple of hours apart. So I wasn't too worried, but I thought that's a bit weird. I didn't have that with Teddy this early on, and I was only 36 weeks pregnant, so I wasn't really thinking too much of it. As my hair appointment sort of progressed and we were nearing the end of it, I was having contractions almost less than 5 minutes apart. I remember looking at my hairdresser, and I had like a couple of tears running down my face, thinking, I'm gonna go into labor tonight, like this is it. Like, they were getting more painful, and yeah, I really thought that that night there was a good possibility that I was going to go into full labor with little Charlie, which at 36 weeks, you know, baby's almost full term, and because he was sort of measuring at the 42-week mark, I had in the back of my mind, you know, he's ready, this is fine. So I left my hair appointment, and the following day, so then yeah, the next day after my hair appointment was my scheduled glucose test. So I thought to myself, okay, if the contractions sort of stay quite regular, I'll just sort of see about it the next day. Anyway, that night, the night of my hair appointment, was just in so much pain. I was laying awake crying, like I was just in so much pain, and I felt like something was wrong. I'm gonna cry. And I was just the whole time in the back of my mind, don't worry, you're gonna be at the hospital at 8 a.m. next morning, so you can ask about it then. So what happened was, I got the glucose test, that was fine. You know how, like, so between glucose tests, they take the first one, then you have like, I think an hour to 2 hours to wait, and then take a second lot of blood, and then you wait again, and then I've got a feeling they take a third lot of blood as well. So they did the first take of the blood, and I said that I was just going to take a walk upstairs because I was still having contractions. I was like sitting there sort of with tears in my eyes, just looking at either my mum or my mother-in-law, just like, I am in so much pain, I need to see about this. So upstairs was like, I guess, place you go if you think you're in labour. They pop you up on the monitor and they monitor your contractions with a strap around you, and they, yeah, just, I guess, look at what's going on and how often you're contracting, what your blood pressure is, how baby is, etc. So they did that. I also had a scan, and it showed that, you know, bub was measuring big, I had excess fluid. So once they looked at that, and once they were sort of monitoring the contractions, they confirmed that I was indeed having contractions, and they got to the point that it was so bad that I was like, I was laying in the bed and I was just crying because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to leave. Unfortunately, I was halfway through a glucose test, and they did need to look into whether I was going to have a glucose problem, so I had to go back down to the glucose testing, and they did the second lot of blood, and then I think I went back upstairs again, went back on the monitor. They continued to monitor me, and they then, I think, maybe did the third lot of glucose testing where I was being monitored, just because I could not move. Like, I was on this bed and I was contracting and I was crying, and I remember calling Fletcher, just like, I can't leave here because I'm in so much pain. And I was watching the time tick by, and it got to, like, I'm pretty sure 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they ended up having to check me in, and I knew that I probably wasn't going to leave and didn't want to leave without a baby, because it was so uncomfortable and just something didn't feel right. This is where it really goes downhill. So the 11th of April is when I was officially checked in to the Gold Coast University Hospital. I was about 36 weeks pregnant on the dot, and they pretty much said to me that because of my situation and because I was contracting, and that was all confirmed via the contractions that were printed on paperwork and everything, like I was having contractions, I was in, I guess, preterm labour, and it was sort of happening. It was progressing, but I guess not enough for them to do something immediately. At the time, I thought, okay, I'm in the best possible place, so I'm gonna just listen to what they have to say, and obviously they know best. I'll remind you that this was the 11th of April. Hubby came to visit me that night. I cried and I said, but at least, you know, Charlie will come soon. Like, he sort of reassured me that, you know, it would be okay. It got to then the next day, and he came back again because obviously I had to stay in the hospital and I was in a shared room. The second day, you know, we said to the nurses and the people who were looking after me, what's happening, what's going to happen. And every morning a doctor would come in and they would say, we're going to try and get you induced. And they did lead me to believe that that's what the course of action was going to be. They said to me, unfortunately, we don't think we can induce you until you're 37 weeks pregnant. Now this was about, a week away exactly. So the whole time I had in my head, all right, you need to just wait, Hayley. You need to wait. You need to just be patient. But it got to the point where I was laying in my bed every night, away from my husband, away from Teddy. And I felt so alone because Fletcher and I, we don't spend time apart. Like, we just don't. I've never been away from Teddy for that long. By day 3 and 4, they couldn't get a story straight with me, the nurses. The nurses were rude. They made me feel like I was taking up bed space. There were 2 different ladies who were in full-blown heavy labour going in the shared room with me, and I was listening to that every single night. I could not rest. I didn't get any rest at all. They then put a newborn in my room because for some reason everywhere else was maxed out, and that's just, I guess, how the university hospital works. But for 6 days I didn't sleep. I was contracting the entire time. They confirmed I was having between 3 to 4 contractions every 10 minutes. Now, to do that around the clock is so exhausting. But in the back of my mind, I knew that he was going to have to come soon, and they did say to me that, look, if it gets too bad, we'll try and get you in and we'll get him out for you, even if it's just before the 37-week mark, even though we'd prefer you to wait until 37 weeks. This is what the actual doctor had said. And so every morning I had sort of a little bit of hope that they'd look at my situation, how much pain I'm in, the fact that I haven't slept, that I'm going to be exhausted for when my newborn arrives, and that I just could not tolerate the pain. And also I just felt like something was horribly, horribly wrong, and they just were not listening to me. Like, I could not get through to these nurses and midwives and doctors just how bad I was, but it was all there on their screens. Like, they could see that I was contracting. They were checking in on me, giving me, I'm pretty sure, like endone or something. I don't know if it was endone, because I don't think you can take that when you're pregnant, but they were giving me something for all the pain every single 4 hours on the dot, just because it was so bad. And they still wouldn't do anything. They had space in birth suite because someone went down there. One of the ladies that was in my room went down there, and she said there is space. They're literally just not doing anything. And I don't know if that's the case, but when I'm laying there and I haven't slept for 5 or 6 days, it's just, you feel like you're losing all hope, and I just didn't want to be there. I felt like a prisoner. It got to the day where I'd been in hospital for 6 days, and so that made me 36 weeks and 6 days pregnant. So I was under the impression that the following day would be 37 weeks, technically classed as term, and I would be able to have Charlie, and I could be out of misery, and I was finally now a priority. This was not the case. I had been misled by the Gold Coast Uni Hospital when my husband came in on, I think it was the 37-week mark morning. I just remember been so excited because I was under the impression that I was going to have my baby today, or at least start the process for an induction, because that's what the hospital had led me to believe. You know, the doctors who I did speak to said, you know, you're only 36 and 6 days, but you are measuring at the 42-week mark, so we do need to get something happening. However, when it came time, I was made to feel silly and ridiculous and like I was lying, because for some reason no one was leaving a trail of notes when they were coming in to see me. There was just no evidence that a doctor had even said anything to me, so I was made out to be a liar, and that I wasn't supposed to be induced that day, even though I was led to believe that. They told me I could be. And anyway, so when my husband came in, we thought we were going to start the process for an induction, but all they did was tell me that I was to continue waiting. Now, I bursted into tears, was shaking, I was upset, and I couldn't understand that for 6 days they told me that I could be induced, and then all of a sudden it's the day I'm supposed to be induced, and they just say I have to keep waiting. Like, they've told me that I'm high risk, and they've put all these negative thoughts in my head. My stomach was like hurting so bad, it was as rock hard as anything, because that's what happens when you get contractions. Normally when the contraction finishes, your stomach like goes back to sort of not soft, but softer than when a contraction's hit. But my stomach was rock hard the entire time. Like, I was just in such discomfort, and the university they just didn't care. I explained very nicely, while also being really upset, like bawling my eyes out, that something needed to be done. And yeah, they literally just said to keep waiting. So what they did was they actually brought in the head of complaints, because I guess they thought that that would achieve something for us and we could then vent to her. But all she did was mock us. So my husband and the head of complaints lady were talking, and we said that, you know, we're high risk. The scan showed that our baby is already bigger and measuring at full term. I have excess fluid, which is a massive risk for if I was to go into, you know, full-blown labour and my waters were to break. And, you know, we said that I have a condition. We've just been told that condition, the scan, it's called polyhydramnios. It's when you have excess fluid around the baby, but by the looks of it, I had a lot of excess fluid. Anyway, so we told her, and all she pretty much said was that you know, we shouldn't be worried. And when my husband pronounced the word polyhydramnios, he I think mispronounced it or something, and she corrected him, and she just made us feel so stupid that when she left us alone, he looked at me and he said, "What do you want to do?" I bursted into tears. He picked me up, grabbed my bags, and we discharged ourselves. So it's totally the wrong thing to do, but at the same time, my baby was at risk. I was at risk, and I wanted to get that out of there. It was BS how much they'd already put me through and how much I had to tolerate. As a high-risk pregnancy, you think that you're going to get looked after, and you trust the people that you're supposed to trust. Like, you're supposed to put your faith in the midwives and the staff at the hospital you're at, and when you can't do that, what else are you supposed to do? So We picked up my bags, we literally ran out the door. The receptionist yelled at us and said, you need to sign discharge papers if you're leaving. Where are you going? We looked at her and we said, no, we're going to another hospital. And we just left, and she honestly started chasing us out, and we just ran. I did not feel safe there. They weren't putting me and my baby first, and we needed to get to another hospital. We didn't really have a plan, but on the way to the car park, I said to Fletcher, well, he said to me, I think we should call Pindara. I have an auntie who works there, and so does Fletcher, and yes, it's a private hospital, but action is going to be taken. So we called Pindara, and just to get in the door, it was pretty sure $5,000, because we had no paperwork with them. We didn't have any paperwork with us. We'd never been there before. They knew nothing about me. But the second I got there, the second I walked in the Pindara doors, crying and contracting, they took me to a room, they put me on the monitor, and they put me in a bed, and they looked after me. Like, I had someone by my side the entire time there. At the university, they'd come in, have a quick look, and they'd piss off again. They just didn't care. They weren't putting me and the baby first, and it was just absolutely gut-wrenching to be in a place that just doesn't give a flying F about you. We'd had a really bad experience with Teddy, and I just thought it could not be that bad again, but it was. They told me when I got to Pindara that the lady who would be seeing me was in theatre, and so I happily waited for her until whenever she was finished theatre. It got to about 6 p.m. and she came in, and she was so lovely. Her name is Dr. Hassan. She looked at me and she said, you should not be pregnant anymore. Like, she looked at paperwork that they chased up from the Gold Coast University. She felt my tummy and she said, you are way too big. We're getting that baby out tomorrow via cesarean, because she had deemed it not safe to go via an induction based on everything. So even if I had stayed at the university hospital, they would have done the wrong thing, because again, they just didn't care. Like, they didn't look into me enough. They didn't assess the situation well enough to know that I shouldn't even be getting induced. The baby needed to come out now. And so the following morning, I knew that I was going to have a baby. Obviously, the night that I went to Pindara, I just couldn't sleep, because I was finally on a high that my little boy was going to be here tomorrow, and it was going to be hopefully my last night apart from Fletcher. And I had a lovely midwife. She stayed with me all night, and because I hadn't really thought about the possibility of having a cesarean, she walked me through absolutely everything, and we spoke from 9 p.m. until 3 a.m. I got a little bit of sleep, and then I was up at 6 putting my scrubs on and was just ready for theatre. Fortunately, my theatre had been pushed back till about 2-3 o'clock, but I was ready and I was in a really, really, really good place the whole day. It turns out that my contractions actually increased the day of my cesarean, so it was really, really good timing that Charlie was going to be born that day. So this is the 17th of April, and it was very emotional to finally be having Charlie, but a couple of things did happen. So I went into theatre. That was a very long, slow wheel down through the theatre. I was contracting, so they'd given me a couple of different things to try and settle those down, because my contractions had increased quite significantly to the point where they thought I was actually going to have the baby with or without the cesarean. So They gave me a couple of things to try and calm me down. I'll include clips somewhere here that you'll see because I was just so upset in such a state. Anyway, so they wheeled me down and they obviously told me all the things I have to tell you before a cesarean. But when Charlie came out, unfortunately, all the nurses and the surgeon got flooded because, so you're supposed to have 500 mils of fluid around about when you're carrying a baby. That's normal. I had 4 liters in my belly as well as a 4-kilo baby. The surgeons and the nurses all got splashed. Like, it was just, there was so much water everywhere. And unfortunately, with that, Charlie's lungs were actually flooded and it had started killing my placenta. So my placenta was less than 24 hours from just not working at all, and we would have lost poor little Charlie. The next thing that happened was, once Charlie was born, he was unfortunately rushed off to NICU because his lungs were flooded and he wasn't breathing properly. Fletcher went off with him and I wasn't going to spend the night with Charlie because he really needed to get onto oxygen and get in one of those little like heating sort of capsule things. I'll include a photo somewhere. And he needed to be monitored and just really, really well looked after, which I couldn't do because I just had a cesarean and I was just not in a good state. I also had to then have oxygen that night because after they did the cesarean, I was having like a little heart episode. I couldn't breathe. I just wasn't doing well at all. So I'll include the footage here of the footage I took when I was on oxygen, just having given birth to Charlie, and you guys will see just how emotional I was. So it is Tuesday the 16th of April at 9:30 p.m. and I have just come in to a new hospital. I've been in hospital since last Thursday morning, I think. Quick little backstory. I had an antenatal appointment last Monday and they were feeling around my tummy. Anyone who's been pregnant will know that they can measure your tummy just with their hands. And it was coming up a reading of like 40 weeks and not 36. So they booked me in for a scan. I had something called polyhydramnios or something like that, which is excess fluid, and also the baby was measuring in the 97th percentile at around 4 kilos. Teddy was born at 4 kilos at 40 weeks and I'm only 36 weeks now, so this baby is big. So as you guys may have seen in my vlog updates, it's been such a hard week. 5 days ago when I started contracting and a hospital made me wait, and so we had to move hospitals yesterday. We booked in for a cesarean today and I just love my boys so much. My husband. I really need sleep, but it's been so scary. I still haven't seen Teddy. Childbirth, like, it's just the hardest thing in the world. Baby's in NICU because he can't breathe properly, and I also can't breathe, so I want oxygen. So much pain because they they just gave me morphine. I'm waiting for it to set in, but it's also making me really drowsy and want to pass out. I'm so grateful I'm able to carry my own babies, but no one tells you how hard this can be. But I'm just a mess. And yeah, I just feel really overwhelmed. And being in hospital for so long is just terrifying. I've been like stuck in the bed, and he goes to bed at 6 p.m. and our surgery was pumped back until like 4 p.m. That was supposed to be at 2 o'clock, but my body went into actual labour at 11:30, and
Hello.
Hello. So we had a cesarean booked for 2 p.m. and my body has gone into labour 2 hours before my cesarean. How's that for timing? I woke up this morning with contractions and they've since become stronger and I've had to have pain relief. But I'm in full labour and I'm still waiting for my cesarean. So hopefully that comes soon. Fletcher looks really nice. Hello.
Hello.
Are you excited?
Yes, very excited.
You look really nice.
Thank you.
We're in matching scrubs. Fletcher's been brushing my hair like a champ and my eyelashes. Now that you guys have seen that footage, you will understand probably a lot more why I was so upset. Anything could have happened to me. And as for Charlie, my placenta turned off. It was like a normal placenta is like purpley red. Mine was white and there was just no lifeline there really for Charlie. So the outcome could have been so different, and I'm so thankful to everyone at Pandara who looked after me, because I could be sitting here without Charlie. Like, it was just such a close call. That night I went in to feed Charlie in a wheelchair, and I fed him in a wheelchair, and then I went back to my room and I finally got to spend the night with Fletcher, which after like 7-8 days was just so nice, because obviously he couldn't stay at the uni hospital. Yeah, it was just so nice, and the nice food we got at the Pindara hospital, everything was just above and beyond. And you know, we were there for I think 2 days or 3 days at Pindara, and every day was just fantastic. They looked after me, they made me feel special, they made me feel like I was a priority. And I got to see Teddy, and I just burst into tears when I saw him. You know, I've never had to go a week without seeing Teddy, or longer than a week without seeing Teddy, and he just looked at me funny, like if he knew who I was, but you know, he was so young that he just had this kind of like little smirk, and it was just really special. But obviously after a C-section I sort of was waddling and couldn't really get out of bed that much for the first 2 days. But yeah, anyway, I am so sorry that this has taken so long for me to get up, but it was a lot to process. It's so unlike anything I've ever had to deal with before. Our lives could have been changed so fast, that the outcome could have been so different. And also as well, like going from 1 baby to 2 babies has been a lot. Like, it's so much fun, and I love every single day with them, and I truly just cherish my boys more than ever. But yeah, it wasn't like when we just had Willie, our dog, and our cat Lucy. It's just so much more. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will include as much footage and photos and everything as I can. But I can hear my boys waking up, so I'm gonna go see them. Thanks guys.